Do you remember the time when you found yourself saying yes to something you desperately wanted to say no to? Picture this: a dimly lit restaurant, plates of half-eaten food scattered across the table, laughter spilling from all sides. But there you sit, nodding and thinking along to plans you couldn't care less about, smiling even though every inch of you feels uncomfortable. That sinking feeling grows in your stomach. Everyone seems to be enjoying the moment, but you're caught in a scene that doesn't belong to you, trapped in a moment you didn't choose. It's that feeling of disconnect, a sensation so familiar to so many of us, yet rarely discussed. Why do we find ourselves here? Why do we often choose to stay silent, even when what we truly want is to break free? Today, we're going to uncover the hidden forces that pull us into the web of people-pleasing. We'll delve into the psychological patterns that drive us to prioritize others' happiness over our own, and we'll reveal the surprising truths about how this habit shapes not only our lives, but also our relationships and well-being. Most importantly, we'll explore how you can stop living for others' approval and start living for your own truth, because the life you truly desire is waiting for you on the other side. Have you ever wondered why, in those moments when you're uncomfortable, you choose to smile and agree, even though your heart is screaming no? Why do we fear disappointing others so much that we push our own needs aside? What if, instead of seeking validation and approval, we could learn to trust ourselves more? What would your life look like if you stopped trying to please everyone and, instead, lived fully for yourself? In the next few moments, we will dive deeper into the reasons behind people-pleasing behavior, exploring how it shapes our lives and our mental health. We'll also take a philosophical journey to understand how thinkers like Schopenhauer and modern psychology shed light on the power of living authentically. In the end, we will cover the most powerful realization of all, that the key to breaking free from people-pleasing and embracing a life of true fulfillment lies in trusting yourself and your own instincts. This journey starts now. Picture yourself again, in that restaurant, nodding along to plans you don't care about, all the while wishing you could escape. Imagine how different that moment would feel if you had the power to say no, to walk away from something that doesn't serve you, without the weight of guilt or fear of judgment. Why is it so hard for us to say no, even when we know it's the best choice for our well-being? Schopenhauer, the famous philosopher, understood this tension between societal obligations and personal happiness. He recognized that people who have the courage to stand alone, those who are not afraid to say no to the world's demands, often find a deep and lasting freedom that most people-pleasers never experience. He once said, "On the heights, we must expect to be solitary." In other words, to live a life that is truly your own, you might have to walk a path that others won't understand. It's in those moments of solitude, Schopenhauer suggests, that we find our true selves. But why is standing alone so difficult? The answer lies in a deep, often unconscious fear of rejection. From an early age, we're conditioned to believe that we must conform, that our worth is tied to how well we meet the expectations of others. We become trapped in the cycle of seeking external validation, constantly striving to fit in, even when it means sacrificing our own happiness. In the next few moments, we will dive deeper into the reasons behind people-pleasing behavior, exploring how it shapes our lives and our mental health. But let's delve into some perhaps less obvious dimensions of this behavior. Consider the internal conflict that arises when we consistently prioritize others. Deep down, we often know what we truly want or need, yet we override these internal signals to maintain external harmony. This creates a state of cognitive dissonance, a psychological discomfort that arises from holding conflicting beliefs or values. The more frequently we act against our own truth, the stronger this dissonance becomes, leading to increased stress, self-doubt, and a diminished sense of integrity. It's like living a constant contradiction where our outward actions don't align with our inner reality. Furthermore, people-pleasing can subtly erode our sense of agency. When we constantly react to the needs and desires of others, we lose practice in identifying and acting upon our own. This can lead to a feeling of being passive in our own lives, like we're being carried along by the currents of other people's expectations. Over time, this can diminish our confidence in our own decision-making abilities and make it harder to assert our needs even when we recognize them. We become so accustomed to seeking external direction that our internal compass weakens. You are absolutely right. My apologies for the oversight. Let's try a different angle, focusing on aspects that might not have been explicitly stated. But let's delve into some perhaps less obvious dimensions of this behavior. Consider the internal conflict that arises when we consistently prioritize others. Deep down, we often know what we truly want or need, yet we override these internal signals to maintain external harmony. This creates a state of cognitive dissonance, a psychological discomfort that arises from holding conflicting beliefs or values. The more frequently we act against our own truth, the stronger this dissonance becomes, leading to increased stress, self-doubt, and a diminished sense of integrity. Today, we will reveal how breaking free from this cycle isn't just a matter of learning to say no. It's about reclaiming the strength to stand up for what you believe, even if it means standing alone. This courage to be yourself, unapologetically, is the first step toward true freedom. People-pleasing isn't just a harmless habit. It's a psychological pattern that goes deep, often rooted in childhood experiences. When we constantly put others' needs above our own, we do so from a belief that our worth is dependent on making others happy. We tell ourselves, "I'm only valuable when I make others happy." This belief becomes so ingrained that we start to think that seeking approval is the only way to feel loved, accepted, and worthy. But here's something surprising. People-pleasing doesn't lead to better relationships or more happiness, as we often assume. In fact, research shows that the constant effort to accommodate others, while neglecting our own needs, can lead to increased levels of stress, anxiety, and even resentment. Why? Because instead of fostering genuine connection, people-pleasers are constantly on edge, worried about letting others down. They lose sight of their own needs, creating an emotional gap that leads to disconnection. Think about it. When you're always focused on what others want, you're not truly present with yourself. You're playing a role, trying to be what everyone else expects you to be, instead of embracing your authentic self. This disconnection can have serious consequences for your mental and physical health. The exhaustion you feel after a day of trying to meet everyone else's needs isn't just emotional. It's physical, too. Your body is reacting to the stress of constantly ignoring your true desires and values. But the costs go even deeper. Schopenhauer might argue that by constantly conforming to external expectations, we lose something far more precious than approval: our chance to truly know ourselves, to develop a deeper understanding of our own thoughts, desires, and values. We become experts in meeting other people's needs, but in doing so, we forget what our needs even are. So why do we continue to people-please, even when we know the toll it takes? The answer lies in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, and fear of disapproval. People-pleasing is a defense mechanism, a way to protect ourselves from the emotional pain of feeling disconnected, rejected, or unworthy. But here's the paradox. While this defense mechanism might seem safe in the short term, it actually limits us in the long run. Every time we choose to ignore our own needs to please others, we lose a bit more of our true selves. We become trapped in a cycle that keeps us small, unfulfilled, and disconnected. But here's the promise of revelation. When you start to break free from this cycle, you'll experience a profound shift. You'll discover that you can still love and support others without losing yourself in the process. You'll find that true connections are built on mutual respect, not on constantly trying to win others' approval. The first step toward breaking free from people-pleasing is to recognize the pattern. Take a moment to reflect on your recent decisions, big and small. How many of them did you make because you were trying to please someone else? How often do you say yes when your heart says no? How many times have you apologized for things that didn't require an apology, simply to keep the peace? Recognizing these patterns is the key to change. It's about bringing these automatic behaviors into the light, where you can see them for what they are. Your people-pleasing habits didn't form overnight, and your journey to living authentically won't happen overnight either. But it all starts with being honest with yourself about your behavior and being willing to change. One of the most crucial steps in breaking free from people-pleasing is learning to set boundaries. Now, this can be a scary step for many, especially if you've spent your life avoiding conflict and trying to keep everyone happy. But here's the truth. Setting boundaries doesn't ruin relationships. It improves them. When you clearly communicate your limits, you invite others into a more honest, authentic relationship with you. You show them that you respect yourself, and, in turn, you invite them to respect you as well. But why is setting boundaries so intimidating? Because for many of us, our sense of worth is tied to being agreeable. Saying no can feel like a threat to our very identity. But here's the revelation. Once you start setting boundaries, you'll find that people respect you more, not less. The first time you say no might feel like jumping off a cliff, But what you'll discover on the other side is freedom. Freedom to be yourself without fear of rejection or judgment. Living authentically means trusting your own internal guidance system. It's about learning to listen to your true self instead of constantly seeking external validation. This is not about being selfish. It's about becoming self-aware and honoring your own desires and values. The key to living authentically is to take time each day to check in with yourself. Ask yourself questions like, what do I truly want in this situation? What feels right for me? This process might feel awkward at first, especially if you've spent years ignoring your true feelings. But like learning a new language, trusting yourself becomes easier the more you practice it. The more you tune into your inner voice, the more natural it will feel. In the end, the most powerful realization of all is this. Living authentically is the path to true freedom. When you stop living for others' approval and start living for your own truth, you unlock a level of peace and fulfillment that people-pleasing can never provide. The journey begins with a single step, and that step is choosing yourself. One of the most powerful tools you can use to break the cycle of automatic people-pleasing is something deceptively simple: the pause. This is your new secret weapon, a small yet potent practice that can change how you respond to the demands of others. Instead of immediately saying yes to every request, try saying, let me think about that and get back to you. This brief pause gives you the necessary space to connect with your internal compass, allowing you to reflect before automatically agreeing to something just to avoid conflict. It's important to remember that you don't owe anyone an immediate answer. The pressure to provide a quick response is a reflection of the people-pleasing mindset we're aiming to break free from. People-pleasers often believe that saying yes right away is the only way to be liked, to avoid tension, or to maintain peace. But in reality, this rush to please others is not only unsustainable, it's also a silent thief of your peace and clarity. By taking a moment to pause, you're asserting control over the situation and giving yourself the time to truly consider what aligns with your values and needs. When you pause, you step away from the autopilot mode of compliance and enter a space of self-awareness. This simple act allows you to stop and ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Is this the right choice for me? Or am I just trying to keep the peace? With time, you'll begin to realize that taking a moment to pause doesn't just benefit your personal well-being. It strengthens your ability to engage with the world from a place of authenticity and confidence. Many people-pleasers struggle with the belief that prioritizing their own needs is somehow selfish. We've all been taught, in one way or another, that caring for ourselves first is a luxury, not a necessity. But here's a powerful shift in perspective. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's essential, not just for your own well-being, but for everyone around you. When you constantly put others' needs before your own, you eventually become depleted. You start to feel resentful, disconnected, and overextended. You have nothing left to give, not just emotionally, but mentally and physically. On the other hand, when you take the time to honor your true self, you fill your own cup. You become more energized, more present, and more capable of showing up for the people you care about. You can give love, care, and support in a way that's rooted in abundance, not in sacrifice. This isn't about being selfish. It's about recognizing that in order to truly care for others, you must first care for yourself. The truth is, when you prioritize your own needs, you not only thrive, you help everyone around you thrive as well. Pay attention to how it feels in your body when you start making these choices. At first, you might feel discomfort. Breaking old habits is always challenging, especially if they've been ingrained for years. But in the discomfort, there's also a sense of relief, a quiet peace that comes when you align with your true self. The discomfort will fade, and in its place, you'll find empowerment and a deeper sense of connection to yourself. For many people-pleasers, the hardest part isn't knowing what they want or need. It's expressing it. If you're someone who struggles with this, start by practicing your authentic voice in private. Stand in front of a mirror or write down your preferences, boundaries, and desires. Say them out loud. Get used to hearing yourself speak your truth. This might feel awkward at first, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes. When you start to express your authentic voice in private, it will slowly become easier to express it with others. Over time, you'll find that your true voice becomes less foreign, more natural, and more empowered when you finally stop trying to please everyone and begin living from your authentic self. Something extraordinary happens. The energy you once spent managing everyone else's opinions, accommodating their needs, and striving for their approval is now free to focus on what truly matters to you. No longer will you be weighed down by the constant pressure to meet others' expectations. Instead, you'll find space for curiosity, creativity, and growth. Living authentically is not about ignoring others' feelings or becoming indifferent to their needs. It's about connecting with them in a way that's genuine and meaningful. Your yes will become more powerful because it will be born from your truth, not your fears. And your no will be just as powerful because it will be a choice made from a place of self-respect, not guilt. So, are you ready to stop trying to please everyone and start living for you? The journey begins with one simple, authentic choice. What will yours be? The moment you decide to honor your true self is the moment your life begins to shift toward the fulfillment and freedom you've been searching for.